I'm Amy Turner Ladow, and I am the president of HDSA Indiana chapter.
My name is Hannah Chorba. My whole family has been affected by Huntington's disease. Since it's a genetic disorder, many members of my family have had it. Most importantly, my mom had Huntington's, and that also means I have a 50-50 risk of inheriting it, as well as my siblings.
Huntington's disease is a genetic disease that affects about 30,000 Americans. In my family, we have 5 of us who have Huntington's. The 5 of us got it from our father. Normally it's a 50-50, but Huntington's is a combination of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and ALS. So in 1993, they determined what the Huntington's gene defect was, and so now you can get tested for it, and you receive a CAG account.
Huntington's disease is caused by a mutation in the gene for a protein called Huntingtin. The defect causes the building blocks of DNA called cytosine, adenine, and guanine to repeat many more times than they normally do.
In my family, I have the lowest CAG count, which is a good thing. I have a 38, but my older sisters had 47. My father, we presume, he passed away before it was invented, but we presume he was in the mid-40s, and basically the CAG count determines both age of onset and then sometimes related to duration. So the higher the number, the sooner Huntington's affects you. The initial onset, we now know, is really cognitive, and it's with executive function that is the most impacted. And so basically what happens is your CAG count remains pretty stable in your blood, but over time it deteriorates in your brain, and it actually eventually kills brain cells. And so it creates an inability to process information.
It wasn't much that I noticed too much right away, since I was young and not really paying attention, but they have noticed like behavioral issues. At first she thought maybe she was bipolar. Some doctors were suspecting that, so she would kind of be a little paranoid, always feeling like people were out to get her. Also, she was having issues keeping up with her work, and she would just find herself making a lot of little mistakes. Also with driving, she would just have a slower reaction time. So those were like the first main symptoms.
In the early stages, there are good medicines that treat the anxiety, the depression that go along with it, but there are not good things to treat the executive function. So in that sense, your brain deteriorates and you degrade. So it's kind of like regressing. So if you say break your arm, you're going back to learn how to, first you're learning how to brush your teeth with the other hand, and then you're learning how to reuse that reassembled hand. With Huntington's, there's no relearning. It's a decline, and it's going to continue declining. So I have some nieces that are in their 40s that are literally, their thinking pattern is like a teenager. So they're well enough to perhaps drive a car, but not well enough to make good decisions to like slow down when it's raining or avoid a car in an accident situation. So it's like a new driver. And so from that perspective, some of them, then you eventually digress even further and you need assistance with daily living, truly diapering and feeding and constant care.
It's kind of hard for me to say I was a caretaker because my dad was the main one, but I feel like I've, come to terms with that. I was like a part-time caretaker for her. I mean, she couldn't cook anymore, so I'd help, make her food. When she would get really bad, sometimes I'd have to feed her, help her go to the bathroom. A lot of stuff you wouldn't think you'd have to do for your parents.
When I first knew that I was at risk, I was 10, and my mom told us our dad had Huntington's, and they found out he had Huntington's because he went in for a hernia operation, and when they put him under anesthetic, he didn't stop moving. And so they knew something was wrong, and they sent him to a neurologist, and he was diagnosed with Huntington's.
Another major factor of the brain affected by Huntington's are the gross motor skills. One of the main side effects of Huntington's is chorea, an abnormal involuntary movement disorder characterized by quick movements of the hands or feet. Unlike Parkinson's, these movements are more frequently described as dance-like.
Griffith has actually 5 families who are afflicted with Huntington's disease, which is a really high number, and we aren't related. So the town knew our parents and knew who had this disease because they would see our parents walking, and eventually they would be told, no, they're not drunk, they're sick.
She had a little bit rough growing up, because her dad had Huntington's as well. He was also suffered from alcoholism, which is pretty common, I found out, with Huntington's. It's also hard to tell, if somebody is drunk or if it is just their symptoms. And yeah, she got married kind of young, had a daughter, probably around 20, I think. And then she ultimately got divorced from him and married my dad. And then she had my brother and me. And then since then, I think she had a pretty happy life, pretty somewhat nuclear family, a little bit of a mixed family. She had a good group of friends. They would always kind of tease her a bit because they would call it Mary moments, which we found out later were probably Huntington symptoms. So she would maybe be a bit airheaded or just do something kind of silly. But yeah, she was always loved to laugh. And yeah.
The Huntington's Disease Society of America is an organization in the United States that really focuses on help for Huntington's disease. And their main focus had been, since there's no cure, their main focus was really on creating centers of excellence for places for people to get care.
The HDSA can help assist in cases of homelessness, travel, and other medical expenses and troubles one living with Huntington's might endure. At the HDSA Centers of Excellence, patients can receive care from highly skilled professionals trained specifically in Huntington's disease.
Part of the HDSA is also overall awareness. May is coming up, and it's Huntington's Disease Awareness Month. I think I'm most proud of actually engaging Northwest Indiana in information about Huntington's disease. I run a walk every year. So this walk, it happens in June. We get about 150 people, and we walk literally the town. So we start from the Central Park, we go all the way down the main street, we cut across the Erie-Lackawanna Trail, past the high school, and all the way back to the center. So we make about $15,000, but we spend literally nothing. Everything that we do with that walk is donated.
I learned about the HDSA probably about 10 years ago, because my family went to the Team Hope Walk in Naperville, because that was the closest one at the time. About 2 years ago, we found out about the Griffith Walk in Indiana that Amy has started. And we've gone there every year since. I'm planning on going this year.
Because the only walk or only fundraising really happened down in Indianapolis, I really wanted to bring it north. And so I started a walk about 5 years ago to get donations to help Indiana families and also to get more research dollars.
I just want people to be aware that it exists and how much it affects not only the person with the disease, but their entire family and their entire network. When you hear about it, it's just kind of an abstract idea, but it gets real when you see it in real life. Happy birthday! Please make her own